and gentlemen, welcome to Political Theory. I am your host, Publius, and today we're going to be talking about politics. Many centuries ago, the 13 British colonies in North America had won their independence from Great Britain in 1783. Now freed, we were able to establish a government that would provide services to the ordinary American. However, turbulence would abound due to Congress being unable to do many things. Such was explained in a case study where states like Rhode Island, unrestricted under the Articles, inflated their economy, while others didn't, and this hurted Rhode Islanders. We were at a breaking point, and we had to act fast, or the United States of America would have ceased to be a failed experiment. I, Pluvius, had eventually discovered the very thing that was causing this rumpus. Such rumpus was in the form of the Articles of Confederation. Our government was limited by the Articles as it had to heavily rely on states to complete tasks. This created an improper balance of power between the states and the federal government. This was something that our nation couldn't take anymore. Eventually, we convened again, once more, to solve the issue in the Constitutional Congress during the summer of 1787. Delegates debated over a new constitution and the structure of government. They would create a solution in the form of the American Constitution. But yet one thing remained: to convince the American public to ratify such a thing. I appealed to countrymen like me to ratify such what seemed to be a very risky option. To give up their power to a national government? It seemed outrageous, and yet I remained persistent. I had written many political essays in the form of the Federalist Papers to convince the public mind into ratifying the document, and this would be a success, as the American people, convinced, ratify such a document. The old system of government under the Articles was thrown out, and the new system under the Constitution was put into place. Now in the present, people have come to argue that such a thing has been shown to result in disaster. Yet to that I say, the American experiment is still alive. The Constitution that I had argued for in my Federalist Papers is functioning with tremendous success. We have gone so far as Americans due to such a document, as I argue back in the 51st of my Federalist Papers. I argued that ambition must counter ambition through dividing power into many departments in government. Today, that system is in place through three branches of government: executive, judiciary, and legislative. Moreover, the legislative branch was further divided into two more chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. They were all given checks and balances in order to counteract each other, to prevent the concentration of power by a single one. And yet people would say that government isn't functioning as there was too much gridlock and it's too complex. Yet, it works as intended. Such a thing works as only laws passed through a significant majority as I had intended to, through interest as I intended, through interest countering interest, ambition countering ambition. Take, for example, the recent Big Beautiful Bill passed by Congress in the current year of 2025. The bill had to pass through many changes through Congress before being passed in the first place. Provisions were removed, such as one that would have Congress limit the states from regulating artificial intelligence, and such as one where Congress would limit the states from regulating artificial intelligence for 10 years. This was incredibly unpopular in the Senate, and they managed to strike it down. One of the representatives that led the charge into removing this provision was Marshall Blackburn, who talked about how the states have already passed the necessary regulations on AI, and that the language used in the provision was problematic, with possibilities of different interpretations conflicting with what the provision originally intended. I may want to direct other examples from previous history, such as from a case study about Athenian democracy, where after suffering massive losses against Persia, pro-oligarchy groups were able to take over the government, as there were no other groups to counter their ambition with how laws pass. And this proved to be a disastrous since laws back in Greece were a lot simpler than how it is today. And with that, today, and with that, currently, the American experiment is working due to gridlock, preventing it from consuming itself. But hey, that's just a theory. A political theory. Thanks for listening.